I think more than anything in the world, like it's so cool to be going to a team that's going to be good and a team that's going to be, hopefully if all goes according to plan, deep in the playoffs and, a chance to bring a Lombardi to Western New York. And it couldn't be a more exciting team to be a part of.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Wisdom Wednesday, presented, of course, by DraftKings. The crown is yours. The wisdom today comes from the newest member of the Buffalo Bills, Michael Hoecht. Can't wait to talk to this dude. Typically when I have fellow Ivy League NFL guys on the show, it is very well received. They usually have a similar mindset to your boy. So looking forward to talking with Michael Hoecht. Got a really nice deal to go to the Bills, to be a part of that defensive line. I think the Bills recognize they need that unit to help them get to the next level. I wouldn't say a ton of news to get to today. Some minor signings. We got a new guy being the highest paid punter ever. But OTAs did start, and I've got some thoughts about some of the guys not attending OTAs. Remember, we are with you every day of the week, all year round. During the season, we do this show 5 days a week, and then even money for betting, college draft for college football and betting, fantasy feast podcast for fantasy. In the offseason, this show's 3 days a week. We'll have Greg Cosell, the civilian GOAT, on tomorrow's episode. Certainly check out the other shows as well. Love those of you that rate, review, subscribe, and share. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, there are very few things I like more than Ivy League guys in the NFL or my favorite team I played for, the Buffalo Bills. So this is pretty cool to combine both. Now that I think about it, actually, Ryan Fitzpatrick played for Buffalo for a while after I did. So for whatever reason, the Buffalo Bills become the home for Ivy Leaguers in the NFL. It's been fun watching this guy's career because, to be honest with you, usually when there's an Ivy League NFL prospect, I know about them in college. I didn't know much about today's guest, Michael Hoecht, the newest D lineman for the Buffalo Bills when he was at Brown. Kind of came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I see this guy flying around for the Rams. It was awesome. Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ross. Pumped to be here. And with the Rams, we had a little Brown-Harvard connection with, San Francisco had Juszczyk, a Harvard guy, and Brown's got a lot of history with the Patriots, with James Devlin. So we'll get some, it's good to have, Brown Nation back in the AFC East.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. All right, so I want to start with this because I did some research on you. You were born in Canada, moved to Ohio, back to Canada, back to Ohio for your last 2 years of high school. What was the deal there? I mean, you don't hear that very often, someone ping-ponging back and forth between Ohio and Canada.
Yeah, I mean, we moved down because of my dad's job. He was originally with Reynolds & Reynolds, brought us down to Dayton. Grew up there. That's how, that's why I'm currently a football player and not a left wing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's my life. And then, right before high school, my dad became a GM of a car dealership up in Toronto. So, we packed up and went, and then did that for 2 years. Realized that, hey, I'm pretty good at football, and my parents really wanted me to go to school in the States, so they said, you know what, we'll go back for 2 years, let me graduate high school, get me into college, and then they moved back up to Toronto. So they're all up there, everybody's Canucks, and they couldn't be more excited that I'm a Buffalo Bill. I'm 2 hours away.
Dude, that is incredible. Yeah. I mean, was that a big factor in your decision at all?
Yeah, I think so. I have my entire family is Canadian, and so there's a lot of Buffalo Bills fans, and my whole family extended on both sides. So, when you're going through free agency, it's too good of an opportunity to pass up. It's close to home. I've been in California for 5 years, and it's 6 hours and $1,000 of flights every time you want to go out and visit. So this couldn't be better. We're going to have a bunch of 55 Hoecht jerseys coming down, crossing the border for all the home games. And yeah, I mean, this is a dream come true.
Did you grow up a Bills fan?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Bengals, because you were in Cincy too.
Bit of both. I mean, I definitely had ties to both, and the weird part is like, never had NFL aspirations just because I was in a small community. I was from Canada, so you never really think like, oh, I'm going to make it to the league. And so you watch up admiring, and then the first time I ever went to an NFL game was a game I played in.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love stories like that. So it's funny. I played for the Bills 03, 04, 05, Mike, and before I was there, you got to look this up. Google the guy, Chidi Ahanatu, okay?
Yep.
He had always wanted to live internationally, so he lived in Toronto when he played for the Bills.
That's
And
crazy.
he would do car service both ways. So he would do car service to the facility, be there, but then he got to live in Toronto, live international. Like like that's pretty wild, but that's a true story.
Yeah, to each their own. Coming from LA, I'm no stranger to traffic, and there's definitely times it's taken over 2 hours to get home from the stadium. So it's definitely doable, but I'm very excited to be, 10 minutes from the stadium. We're in Orchard Park, so we're ready to be Bills Mafia, and I want to be as close to that stadium as possible.
I love it. Okay, so you go to high school in Dayton. What were your offers, and how did it end up being Brown?
Well, I had about no offers, and it's coming this summer before my senior year. I barely even talked to a coach at this point, and so my mom and I jumped in the car and we drove to all the schools that we were interested in. And the thought process was that we were going to use football to get into as good of a school because nobody makes it to the NFL, so you might as well come out with a good degree. And so we drove to Butler, got an offer. We drove to Lehigh, got an offer. We drove to Cornell, got an offer. We drove to Brown, got an offer. We drove to James Madison and got an offer to play guard. Told them to take a long walk off a short pier. I wasn't doing that. I felt like I vibed with the coaches at Brown and some of the guys that I met at the camp. And loved the city, loved like the culture of that team. It seemed like, kind of this blue collar, Ivy League school that's like gritty, and it felt just like exactly everything I was looking for in a college program. And so the decision was easy. Like I spent 15 minutes walking around the campus talking to coaches. I was like, all right, I'm coming.
That is awesome. When I played for the Patriots, we lived right near Providence. Providence is sweet, dude. I like Providence. What do they call on the other side of 95? All the Italian restaurants up on the hill, Federal Hill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all the old school like mob restaurants. Like back in the day when there was like white tablecloths and you're getting good chicken palm, but you might get whacked.
we we ate there a couple times when I was with the Patriots. All right, so tell me, did you love Brown? Like, what did you major in? Give me how Brown went.
Walked on campus as pre-med, took one class, not a full class, but one day of biology, and it was like, you know what? I think I'm a business major. That seemed to be where all my friends are. It seemed to be the general direction to go to. So I was a business econ major, and again, in another life, maybe go the Wall Street route. That seems to be what a lot of my classmates did, but. Then I got on the football field and I was like, well, I'm pretty good at this. I'm just going to take this. I'm just going to keep playing until somebody tells me no. And to this day, nobody's told me no yet.
Dude, that is so funny because I can remember every year when the freshmen would come in and they'd be pre-med majors and we would all be like, okay, yep, good luck. And by the way, some of the guys did it.
Yeah, good luck to him. I was asking around in the locker room. I was like, all right, what's everybody? And then, not a single person on the team that I can remember was, a pre-med guy. And there was like two engineers and, again, and they seemed like they were not recommending it to the freshmen. So I very much think I made the right call.
Well, it's funny because I have a couple buddies that are doctors, like that I played with in college. And like my running joke is that I think a lot less of doctors now that some of my college teammates are doctors. Like, I know what you did in college. Like, I know what you were like. But it is funny because we used to always laugh at them, Mike. We'd be like, yeah, just so you know, when you go into class tomorrow, okay, in organic chemistry or whatever it is, everybody in there is smarter than you. Like every single person. and that's what you're fighting. So what's crazy about you, Mike, there's a bunch of things. But one is your draft ended up being the COVID draft. So you had like a wild story. I don't know, how highly touted were you before you did like a video pro day? I was reading about your video pro day where you ran a 4.6 at like 300 pounds. Were you going to get signed anyway, or is that what put you on the map?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I talked to a couple teams, and it seemed like I was either going to be around 7 guy or undrafted, like somewhere in that range. So you're riding high. I talked to the Bengals at one point, was talking a lot to the Rams, was talking to the Falcons, I was going to have a workout. The 49ers were going to come to Providence, and I was going to work out with them. And that was March 20th, 2020. And that's the day that the world shuts down. So I get a call from my agent, and he's basically just like, hey, scouts are off the road. I don't really know what's going to happen. You're not going to have a pro day. You're not going to have workouts with teams. This might be a wrap for you. And that obviously sucks to hear, because at that point, like, I wasn't really applying for other jobs because I was pretty sure I was at least going to make minicamp. I was like, all right, I'm going to wallow in sadness for about an hour here, and then we're going to get going to fixing this problem. And that's when me and my college roommate, Emerson Logie, we went to a local park, and we put on our cleats, and we grabbed a video camera, and we ran the 3-cone, we ran the 40. We were, putting up videos of bench press and sitting in our living room of like curling old kegs that we had from, earlier in the year. And, I was running routes as a tight end and making sure that I had my shirt off so I could show whatever I got. And I was, not going to let that be the end of my NFL career. So I was just going to put everything that I had into it, put all the videos together, make sure that I have like a total package that if there's a team that's looking to evaluate talent, that they have something to evaluate. And, the Rams must have liked what they see, or at least they, may have thought that, hey, at least this guy's going to have a little bit of care to him, and he wants to be here, and he's going to fight to be here. And I think that's exactly what they got. And, showed up, there was no OTAs, so no spring football. So my first day with the team, first day seeing, a stout O lineman and Andrew Whitworth and all 6'8" of him, and Aaron Donald being an absolute monster, was my first day of training camp. And anybody who's ever gone through an NFL training camp knows that the second you step on the grass, it's go time. And, so intimidating first day, but, that whole story of what got me there is just, I'm a guy who's going to give the effort, give the work, and, find a way by any means necessary to go get the job done.
It's funny, Mike, because my senior year, I was like a bottom of the barrel prospect. So do you know Kyle Brandt from NFL Network, like Good Morning Football?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, we were roommates and teammates.
Oh, nice.
So when the Bengals assistant offensive line coach came to work us out, I had him video it so that I could send that to teams, like literally like a VHS tape or something. This is 2001. So Kyle, with one of those big camcorders, okay, this is not like your phone, not like a little thing. He videoed my workout with the Bengals, and I sent that to teams, and that was a big reason why I got signed by Washington. What's funny is I thought I wanted to look as good as I could. I was like fake tanning, dude. But I was like red. I wasn't tan. I was like red because I was fake tanning so I could look like as well put together as possible. It's incredible.
Sometimes you got to look the part. Yeah.
Here's the thing I don't understand about you, and you got to walk me through this. D tackle at Brown. 310 pounds. I've done some of your games the last couple years, and I think you're still listed at places at 310 some places, and as a D tackle, I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's playing outside linebacker, and there's no chance in hell he weighs close to 310, okay? So when did that change? What happened? Who told you to do what? I've been dying to ask you this.
So my junior year at Brown, we switched from a 4-down structure to a 3-down structure. And we went from, jet up the field, sort of team into we're now a 2-gap team. So they just try to get us as big as humanly possible. And we're, crushing Uncrustables and protein shakes in between a superset of squat. So came into college probably about 265. And got myself up to that 310 number. It wasn't the best, wasn't the healthiest, didn't move as well, but I was strong. So there was that. And then as senior year comes along, we bring in our new head coach, James Perry. We change the defense again, and we're sort of back into this 4-down structure world. And so now we're going from 310, and now we're going the other direction. And I will say it was a lot easier to go from 260 to 310 than 310 back the other direction when you're sitting in college buffet style meal halls. So do that, and then come out of college at about 290. I was a 3 technique, basically undrafted guy, going to be fringe guy to make the roster, potentially P squad, going to be behind Aaron Donald, be able to learn from him. But what I did have is, I could run. So I think that's what they were looking for. They were looking for, big guys who can run and get out of the stack and go tackle screens and, all that. So, found a way to do that. And, then in 2021, the Super Bowl year, it's again, this is kind of year 2. And for anybody who goes undrafted or is a late round pick, year 2 is kind of the big year. It's kind of the make or break, whether or not a team's going to move on. And we go play the Packers. It was either a 4:00 or a Sunday night game. I can't remember, but basically the coach has me down on kickoff, and I run down, and I don't know if they booked me or they screwed up the count or whatever happened, but ran free, made a tackle, and from that point on, the coach was basically like, all right, he can run well enough to be on kickoff. He's going to be on every single special teams. And, when you're playing pretty much all special teams, that's when 290 is less attractive. So let's get down to 280 and then kind of keep that going and get down to 277 and then get down to 275. And then next thing you know, you're, 270 pounds, and we have a couple injuries at outside linebacker. And the coach comes over and he's basically like, you know what? How do you want to learn how to play coverage? And I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. And a lot of the verbiage is the same. I thought the movement from outside or inside to outside was fairly easy, but that was just kind of the path. It was just one of those, by circumstance, I was a special teamer and I was a 4-core guy, which led me to be lighter, which then gave me an opportunity to go switch to outside linebacker. And it's the best thing I ever did because I feel like I really understand that and fit that position really well.
So, okay. What did it feel like, free agency, and to get that life-altering contract from the Bills? You already talked about how great it was to be able to go back, close to home. But let's talk about it. I mean, to go from undrafted, your agent tells you that might be a wrap, and now you're getting life-altering money. What was that like, man?
I mean, it's probably exactly what it seems like, and like coming to a place where, not only do you have the MVP and Josh Allen, but you're also going to have guys like Joey Bosa around that you can learn from, and, and Ed Oliver, who's like a monster. And we just have, we've got, loaded talent top to bottom. So it's, more than anything, more than money or contract or anything, like I'm just a football junkie and I love doing what I do, and I love, winning football games. It's the greatest thing in the world is to just go out on a Sunday and just beat somebody. So I think more than anything in the world, like it's so cool to be going to a team that's going to be good and a team that's going to be, hopefully if all goes according to plan, deep in the playoffs, and, a chance to bring a Lombardi to Western New York. And it couldn't be a more exciting team to be a part of. And, I think this is one of those things where when my football career is done, I think I'm going to be able to look back on it and just be like, wow, that was amazing. But for right now, like more than excited about the contract, I'm excited to go start playing football and start, go compete for a championship and, see how far we can take this thing, because that's all you can focus on. And that's honestly the part of the NFL that I love most, is just going out on Sunday with the boys and, throwing it all out there.
It's awesome. I saw where Brandon Beane, Mike, after they signed you, said that you or your agent had let them know about the PED suspension ahead of time, which I think is awesome. I guess you didn't need to do that. Why was that important to you to tell the teams about that?
Yeah, I think it was, we wanted to negotiate in good faith. Like it was my mistake, and I was careless, and put faith in people I shouldn't have put faith in. And I didn't want to play the game of secrecy and hiding it and trying to screw over a team, like because honestly, like wherever you end up signing, it's important to have good relationships in the building. It's important to have because that ultimately, it's selfish and it hurts the team. And so if you're gonna, when something like that happens, it's no longer, the cover up is always worse than the crime. And so I was like, all right, like, I have made a mistake here. I have put my faith in somebody who, did not have my best interest at heart. And so, I was going to like, all right, that happened. I can't change it. There's nothing I can do about it. But what is the next right thing to do? What is, the next thing that, you live with, whatever happened, you start to move on and you push things in the right direction, and you show that, the type of character that you do have. And, to be able to negotiate in good faith and, talk to all the teams and be like, hey, here's the situation. This is what I got. This is the package that you're going to get. This is the type of person I am. And ultimately, the Bills as an organization, they trusted me. They trusted who I am. I think they trusted my reputation and, the details of the story. And so, and they were like, all right, like this is the guy that we want. This is the guy that we trust. And, we want him to come be a Buffalo Bill. And, I think, for them, they care more about the 3 years than they do about the 6 games. And they know that I'm going to do my part where, starting game 7, I'm going to come back healthy, strong, ready to go. And, ready to take the back 2/3 of the season and into the playoffs and have some good depth.
And guess what? That's the thing people don't realize in life. Like, if you make a mistake and you own up to it, people respect the heck out of that. You know what I mean? And it sounds like obviously it was an honest mistake. I love that. I love everything about it. I can't wait to do some Bills games this year. I don't know how I haven't had a chance to meet you on the field before a game. I did at least one Bills game for CBS last year, a couple on radio. Got to meet you in person soon, man. Can't wait. Check him out on social media. He's at Real Mike Hoecht. Now, it's spelled Hoecht. Most of you should know that. He's been balling for the Rams. I like just like how physical you are, dude. All right. And he's Instagram as well, at Real Mike, Hoecht. Mike, you are the man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Ross. That was great.
Jack, I am so fired up. My Labat blue cooler backpack. I've never had a cooler backpack. It is on its way. I will show it in one of my social posts at Ross Tucker NFL. At a minimum, everybody listening, this should be mandatory to go to rewards.labatusa.com just to see the merch there. It's incredible, and you don't have to pay for it. Just buy Labat Blue Light or Labat Blue, upload your receipts, you'll rack up the points, and then you get the merch. It's genius. Rewards.labatusa.com.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, the biggest news of the day, the OTAs, they've officially begun for every team in the NFL here, and we're in phase 3 of the offseason program.
Right, so there's only a few weeks left. They're all done by mid-June, and this is really the primary on-field activity until training camp, right? They can actually do 7-on-7. They can do 11-on-11. They can run plays against the other side of the ball. And, I actually think, Jack, I'm going to make this my Labat take of the week. Might as well. Brought to you by Labat. With Labat, you can buy beer and get gear. Go to their website, snap a photo of your receipt, upload it to gain points towards exclusive merch. Any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labat. Sign up at rewards.labatusa.com. Aaron Rodgers has earned the right and has the leverage to do whatever he wants. First ballot Hall of Famer, made a crazy amount of money. He can do whatever he wants. More power to him. Maybe I'd be doing what he's doing. He just can't argue he wants to win. He just can't argue that winning is a priority this year for him. Every day he's not on the field in a new offense with his new teammates. He's making it very clear he doesn't really care that much about trying to win games this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, assuming he signs with them, right? I don't know what his personal stuff is they talked about, but I mean, he did a long Joe Rogan interview. He went to a Mike Stud concert. No idea who that is. And I'll say this too. There's lots of players that have personal stuff going on. So I don't know what he's got going on. He has every right to do whatever he wants. I have the right, though, to say that he doesn't really want to win that badly.
Several transactions around the league. The Raiders, they signed punter A.J. Cole to a 4-year, $16 million extension that makes him the highest paid punter in football. And the Lions, they signed linebacker Zach Cunningham, and the Commanders signed D.T. Carl Davis.
So let's start with A.J. Cole. Man, good for him. $16 million, $4 million a year as a punter. I mean, that is fantastic. He's a big dude. You know, their kicker and punter are both big guys, being around them on the field before the game. And then Cunningham and the Commanders signed Carl Davis. This is like veteran depth, veteran floor time, right? So I don't think my guy, Alex Anzalone, is attending the OTAs in Detroit. Probably wants more money, new contract, deserves it. So the Lions signed another vet to kind of be in his place in the meantime. Greg Cosell tomorrow. Get excited. I think we're done here. We're almost in June, which means it's almost beach time most weekends for your boy, which means it's yummy, yummy Smirnoff in my tummy. I've told you guys before, I drink it with like Gatorade Zero or hydration drinks or like Pedialyte. It's perfect. I'm hydrating while I'm drinking delicious Smirnoff vodka, the number one vodka in the world and an official vodka partner of the NFL. And it's not expensive. It's not one of these crazy expensive vodkas out there. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain. It's 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network on Samsung TV Plus, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. You know it's the best Father's Day gift. I'm telling you it's the best Father's Day gift. Your dad loves the newspaper. He's never been on the front. He's never had a story written about him, period, let alone gotten the cover treatment. You want to see your dad shed a tear? Get him a gift from myfrontpagestory.com. Backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.